Perfect, perfect. Okay, so let's start, Diana. Let's start today with how to overcome anxiety. And the first question I have is, if first I would like to know if you have, if you think you have anxiety, or if you've been suffering for anxiety at some point in your life.
Yes, I must say that that was one of the reasons I was looking for you, or I found you. And that's what I got to help for. But of course, I didn't know that it was anxiety that I have, but now I know, because actually from our last session, you remember that we were doing the clearing.
Yes.
The last exercise we did, it was about cleaning up the anxiety, and they say, okay, but I have work on that, and now I just did
the clearing.
Clearing of the anxiety. Why I'm feeling that? Why I'm feeling that so often? It was during this week. My daughter, it was feeling so much frustration.
Yes.
So I was feeling so much anxiety when she got frustrated or she was crying, and I said, what is going on? And then I realized, that okay, that every time, and I was recognizing it's anxiety that I have, because I feel this and this and that, and I didn't know that before. And now I was aware that I was getting this feeling, and I could relate it with so that it was kind of I showing you that you are going forward, because now you can recognize it. Before you were not able to, so you were just reacting. And since I was able to recognize this feeling, I could handle the reaction instead, or like handling more instead of just automatically not out of the blue started screaming like a crazy.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so yes, that's good. And today what we are going to go in more depth about the different ways how anxiety is presented in our lives, and also like what you just did, what you just mentioned about okay, in that moment when you are detecting that something is going on, or you are getting frustrated, and sometimes people, or we are not able to breathe. It's kind of, we start like our breathing changes, we get like more, I would say, our physiology shifts usually when we are going through that episode of anxiety, and as if it is something like, okay, we need to hurry. Sometimes it's like desperation, I would say. Sometimes it's like that's the sentiment that comes in. So when we are able to detect how it is being shown in our lives, anxiety, then we are able to take actions, and we are able to acknowledge or recognize what are those behaviors, what are those changes in our physiology, in our thought pattern, in our thinking pattern, and then we are able to switch. We are able to kind of break the pattern and choose to respond differently, to respond in a more conscious way when we are able to detect, to kind of get that moment of pause. But then again, there is another ways also, like it works for many people, that way of start identifying, because it's very, very helpful, and we are able to shift. But also we are going to see another options, another ways that we can also support the shift of that behavior. Because many times anxiety, and I would say how I see anxiety is something that we kind of, it's a fear related to the future. It could be the near future, but it's always the future. So we kind of, we worry, we concern, and that trigger something within us. And many times, most of the times, that is very unconscious. Like we are not aware about what is behind and what is triggering that reaction that we have. So the other thing is, it's always, I'm saying that anxiety is relating to the future, and at the same time, anxiety sometimes is related to the future, but it could be linked with something that happened to us in the past, like a trauma, like an experience that we live. For instance, I remember I was walking outside my house, and this thief comes and start pulling down my purse, and I started fighting. So next time I will be anxious thinking that that could happen again, right? But I'm thinking that that could happen again. I'm not thinking about the past. The past is creating something that is making me anxious, but I'm thinking about the future, about something that could happen again is the future, even though it's related with the past. So that's a way also how anxiety appears in our life, because we live something in the past that creates some impact, and then we are worried that it could happen in the future. Many times, or it could be sometimes with our children, it could be that we had an experience, we receive an information from our parents that if we do not study properly, for instance, or we don't dedicate the X amount of hours to do our job properly, then that will bring to our life concerns, it will bring to our life impacts for our future. So sometimes we are kind of anxious for our children if they are doing their hours of study, if they are completing their hours of study, if they are dedicating enough time to that, because we are concerned about their future, because somebody told us in the past and it was very strong, and maybe they were very demanding with us, and we just kind of make those beliefs very deep in ourselves, as if that's a fact, as if those thoughts were totally a truth. So we are concerned for our children. So those are just examples to see how sometimes something from the past impacts us, and sometimes we can create anxiety, but our concern is not from the past. The past is kind of the detonation, and it could be the root, but then what we are concerned is about always the future, that something could happen. Okay, so it's just, I think I'm just sharing this to have that clarity that most of the times is for the future. So there is different ways that we can go through and kind of work and kind of resolve all this. But before going to that, I just want to talk a little bit more about anxiety. And anxiety, when it starts, most of the times it starts with a trauma or something that happens, and there is behaviors in ourselves like are visible. Like we can have a balanced life and we have like everything is good, we are confident, we are maybe driving a car, like we are in balance, we are in harmony, and then boom, something happens. And when something happens, it could create a trauma, it could create an experience, and then I will feel like afraid, I will feel like I will have sensations and I will react. There will be sometimes an alarm behavior. For instance, I remember it was when I just arrived to Costa Rica, I was driving, no, I took a taxi. I was going to this party with some friends. It was like a bon voyage party for a friend that was returning to Mexico. So I took a taxi, I went, I didn't have a car at that time, but when I came, I was coming back to my house, a friend of mine told me to drive me back home. So it was super early, it was like midnight. And we were driving, it was like a very short drive, but then we started being chased. And then we started being chased and we were shot. Like they were like bullets going through the car that we were. And I was afraid at that moment. Of course, we were able to escape and enter to a building that was open with some security guards that we used to work, because it was on, I used to work very close. I used to live very close to my office at that time. So we entered to that because the car was chasing us and it was also shooting us. So after that, when I was taking any other taxi and going back through that zone, that road, I started feeling like I wasn't able to breathe, and I was not able to go out the house. So I was in my house the whole weekend, and my friends were picking me up because I wasn't able to leave the house and be outside. And it took me sometimes kind of to overcome that incident because it was very strong. And then I was like seeing how this was because then you see we are in a balanced life, then something happens, and then we have some reactions, and then we have resistance. The bodies start like, okay, I'm going to overcome this, I'm going to get better. And I was getting better. I wasn't able like to breathe when I was going through that. It was kind of panic attacks that I was getting. So I started breathing, and it was calming me down while I was breathing. So I was like, oh, I'm getting over this. But then during this phase, the second phase, I would say, of anxiety, sometimes when it gets longer and it gets like a chronic anxiety disorder, then the second phase they call like kind of the resistance. Like the body is kind of adapting to our reactions, is adapting to the new, when we have anxiety, there is so many things that change within ourselves. The breathing, the heart rhythm, it changed our physiology, the tension in the muscles in our body, in our facial reactions, that we have so many muscles and everything is kind of recording. And many times if we shift something in our face muscles, it will trigger and detonate things that are kind of stored within ourselves. So after that, something that I realized, like I would say very later, was that every time I was driving and I felt like someone was following, I accelerated. Like I was really like pushing hard the accelerator in my car. And I was telling to myself, I hope nobody crossed the road at this moment, because I don't care who crossed, I'm just going to go very fast. So I wasn't aware that, I thought I overcome the anxiety, but I wasn't aware that still those reactions were part of the anxiety that was still in my body, right? And this is just one example, because many times there is many other things that happen in our life, and we don't realize, we kind of, the body and ourselves, we kind of get used to something. And as everything that we learned, like the same thing when we learn to drive a car, at the beginning it takes a lot of effort until we keep practicing, and then we do those things unconsciously. Like we coordinate and we do everything. And sometimes when we are younger, we go for a party and we come back to the house and we say to ourselves, like, I don't know how I came back to the house, because maybe we drank a lot in a very irresponsible way when we were young. So what I'm saying there is that we don't realize, because it's so deep, we learn, and it's so deep in our subconscious. So the same happened when we learned a behavior, learned a response, our body got used to it, and it's kind of, okay, this is the easier way, this is my normal way of behaving. So the brain and ourselves, the neurology in ourselves, it usually goes like in I would say, in what is the reaction or the way that is going to save energy, right? It's going to go for the easier way. It's going to save energy most of the time. So what is easy? Like, and that's the reason sometimes when we are creating a new habit, it's hard, because it's new for the body, the body is taking more energy because it's doing something new, it's creating new neural path in our brain for kind of creating this new road in our brain. So there is more energy involved. But once you get used to it, it's going to be easier. So the same happen if we are like with the anxiety for a long time, you have the resistance and we haven't done anything and maybe haven't taken actions or we haven't realized, we kind of get used to it. And then it gets a point, and I'm talking about when it's get for many months, it gets to a point that we felt totally drained and we are not able to respond. We are not able to change the reactions. Like we are still fighting in the moment that it's kind of the resistant part that we are still like doing, changing, shifting our mind, trying to shape our behavior, but sometimes we don't realize that it's still there. And then when we are not able to do more, we just get tired. We just become drained. And that's when many of the episodes of the anxiety gets more strong. And also there are strong episodes of reaction. So that's kind of the route, how sometimes it develops. It does not need to develop that much, but sometimes it develops. And this is just for our awareness and sometimes what happens. Okay, so let's keep going. Some people ask about what is the difference about stress, what is the difference about anxiety, and stress is something that I would say, and how we will see this in another places is like if we go and what the studies, I would say the studies or the medical news says about anxiety versus stress is more like in a short term, and anxiety it just lasts, it's longer, it could last more. But there are some similarities also that we can find in one to the other one. Sometimes we believe that we live in stress and we don't realize that that stress has become an anxiety. It's not a stress anymore. It's more like it has perpetrated our daily life. Okay. So an anxiety doesn't have like, it could be, the trigger could be something, a trauma in the past, but when anxiety happens, there is no trigger, like there is no like a threat at that moment. It's something that we worry about related to our near future. Like we see something in the future for ourselves or someone we care, and it's related to the future. Yeah, that's anxiety. So I remember that one of the ways to kind of resolve this is to see that future complete, or see that future that is totally satisfactory for us, that we are totally fulfilled with that future. What that means is if, for instance, I'm going to take an exam or going to present myself for a new job, and I am anxious about what they are going to ask me, what is going to happen, and I can start creating a pattern and tones of beliefs and well, of thoughts, a lot of thoughts about the event that is going to come soon and what could be wrong about it and what could I forget about it during the interview. The way that we can overcome anxiety that would help us to shift that pattern of response, of that pattern of reaction in our brains, is to see that we were totally I would say successful into that interview. So I would foresee, I will imagine myself, I will visualize myself that I ended the interview, that I did my best in the interview, that I feel great with the responses, that I feel satisfied. So I will see myself in the future as if I am living, and I will see that everything is satisfactory, everything is successful for myself. So that's one way, and it's very, very, very helpful because it totally kind of shift how we feel. So when something make us feel, or we feel like anxious about something, and we are thinking and thinking and thinking, then we can see that thing that is already completed and is successful for us. And if we still think, or if we still feel anxious, then we are not foreseeing, we are not imagining, or we are not visualizing that the event was complete in a successful way. So we can go and see, okay, maybe I need to go farther in the future to see that that's been completed. And that will kind of, oh yes, it's good, I feel good. It doesn't mean that you won't continue preparing yourself, but you will do it from a different state. So that's a way. So far, is it clear so far? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I'll continue. So what I want to see, this is just one example on what we can do, but what I want to review very quickly is kind of, there is some labels, there is so many names, and we know that doctors and medicine, they put a lot of labels about how this anxiety present in the lives, and there are some definitions. So I'm just going to mention some of them, and I call them labels. Okay, and one of those ones is it's kind of the anxiety that is generalized, and what that means is that it's kind of a disorder, but it's generalized because it's already prolonged for 6 months. Like you've been suffering it for 6 months, so sometimes, or it could be longer than that, and it makes it chronic. So that's a way also that anxiety can't run in your life for a very long period of time, and we start kind of getting used to those reactions. It's not that it's good, it's just the body start getting used. It's kind of, okay, this is my new state, and I am used into that state because I forgot or I don't remember other state. So when you think about, you think inside and say, oh, why I cannot move out? Why I'm trying to move out, but it's kind of, you are able to move out for a little bit, and then you find yourself going back. And it's kind of, it's a habit that has been perpetrated, and it will take a little longer sometimes. But it does not need to be that way, but it will take a little longer because you are creating a new model of response in your body. So that new model needs also to be kind of the new normal, the new baseline for you. Okay, so, well, this type of disorder, when it's generalized, when it has lasted more than six months or more, then usually we are very kind of irritated, right? Or we feel like we are at the edge, like somebody point a finger or poke us, and we just yell. We react, and we also get tired very easily because we are drained on energy, so we get tired. It's very difficult for us to focus, and there is a lot of also tension in our muscles, and many times, of course, we will see this, that it's very difficult for us to relax, or it's very difficult for us to sleep. So this is kind of when it's been generalized, it's been a long time in our bodies. And then we have this other type of disorder or label. I call the other label that is being used, which has a different definition, is the obsessive compulsive disorder. And in this case, I would say it's kind of being apprehensive and having a lot of thoughts that are obsessive and impulsive. And it appears, different thoughts, and what those thoughts make us feel is like it just drains us, and we suffer kind of from reacting in certain way, right? With certain kind of, we have certain reactions, like, oh, something is going to happen, I need to check out, I don't know, that I wash my hands many times, that I close the kitchen or the oven, I have to check that for many times, and all those things. So that's another way that it is being presented. Okay, and it could, like, sometimes if this is so strong, of course, it detonates many other type of reactions in people. Then we have the panic, and I mentioned to you, I used to have panic. I thought I was dying because that's what happens. And I have sometimes clients that they felt they were dying, like something happened in their lives and it was this getting chronic and they were having panic attacks. And it's you feel it in your physical body. So that's very strong. You feel that your heart is running so fast, and that's why I think you will start feeling that you're going to have a heart attack or something. So then we have also the PTSD, or the post-traumatic stress disorder, that people that has been in wars and that has been how you say assaulted, they suffer of this. It's a very emotional shock, very profound event, that traumatic event that people that have gone through, sometimes they develop this. So, and you will see this type of anxiety also that develops. And these just are like some things that you can recognize on how anxiety is also presented. Okay, this is just for our awareness. Does it make sense? Is it clear? Okay. So, so what I'm doing is I'm kind of giving some background, and you will have this information in more detail in the PDF that you are going to receive, and it's been explained. And all this information I gathered also from HARMAT. I studied HARMAT like a long time ago, and they have a specific book about anxiety, and they have a different type of books if you want to find more. But most of the information like I've gathered also in the PDF and I'm sharing is also based on HARMAT studies and from the anxiety book that they have, which is very interesting. So one of the therapies that we've been learning and we've been applying and that are useful for many people is they call it like they are like the cognitive therapies. Because we learn, we are trying to learn a new pattern of response. We are learning how to catch those thoughts that appear when the anxiety is triggered, when anxiety detonates, and then we are trying to shift that. So we are learning, and many times when we do this, we are using the breathing, right? We breathe. And we inhale and we exhale. No, we inhale, exhale, and every time that we breathe, it has a very positive effect because it helps us shift our heart rhythm. And breathing is one of the, I would say, manual access. Yes, I would say manual because we are able to manage it, right? We are able to manage this breathing, like to do it by our desire, to inhale and exhale in a conscious way. And that has a direct impact to our nervous system. It is connected to the nervous system, it's connected to our heart. So it has a great positive impact in our own neurology. And when we are, like when we learn a behavior, like we learn this response related to anxiety, those responses are recorded or registered in our neurology, in our muscles, in our breathing. So being able to have this tool of breathing is very useful because that's going to help us to shift, and it will help us to set a new baseline. So, well, breathing is one of these tools that is being used for this kind of cognitive, and we are also going to use breathing with the heart on the technique we will do and share and do it together. So the other ones is relaxation, practice visualization, and meditation. So all those tools helps, but what has been found and this type of therapy, the cognitive therapy that is being practiced, is based on the thinking or the baseline that it is the thought, right? It is the thought that detonates the emotion, that the thought is related to the emotion. And that is true, like it's always, there is a relation, or it kind of detonates. But what neuroscience has detected or has found is that we have two parts in the brain. We have two parts, one that is dedicated to emotions, one to the rational piece. And it's been also found by the studies in neuroscience that is the emotional part, that it has a stronger connections. There is more communications from our emotions to our thoughts than vice versa. There is communication from our thoughts to our emotions, but there is more from the emotions to our thoughts. And also it has been identified that that what happens, or what I was mentioning at the beginning, what our brain does is that it creates coincidences and it creates models. So if an event happened, right? If an event happened, it will just, if it's the first event and it's been strong, our body will just kind of record, okay, this event, we have these behaviors, and I will be in detail, like the breathing was in this type of rhythm, the heart rhythm was in this way, the muscle phase was in this way. It's kind of, all this data is kind of recorded. So when something similar appears, or we have a different experience, it's kind of inside of our system goes and see, okay, what is this matching with? And it looks for similar things that has been recorded to match it. And that's why it recreates the answer. So that's the part that is very interesting, because it's recreating something that has learned. And sometimes we say, like, this is different, it's not the same, but it's just that something similar or familiar appears, and it will recreate the same reaction. Okay. Okay, so we are going to go through, let's see, we are going to do a practice. We are going to learn one of the techniques, and this technique is being taught by Harmat, and this is the inner ease. Okay, that's the inner ease technique. But before going to the inner ease techniques, I want to talk about the heart. So the heart has its own brain, and the heart has direct communication to our nervous system. It has direct communication to our parasympathetic and to our sympathetic branches of the nervous system. And with this, when we are able to bring our awareness into the heart, and we are able to breathe through the heart, then we are able to bring this, to bring into harmony and into balance these two systems, or these two branches of our nervous system, which is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. The sympathetic is kind of the accelerator. It's kind of, if I push the accelerator, the car is going to go very fast. If I push the parasympathetic, the car is going, it's like the brake, right? It's the brake and I'm going to stop. So when we breathe through the heart, we are going to be able to bring this balance. Okay. So that's the first thing we are going to practice, is just breathing through the heart. You might already, I don't know, I think I usually use in every session, in everything that I teach, like I already incorporated the breathing through the heart. So it's kind of a daily practice, and is the baseline of the practice in everything that I do or share with clients or students. So I think we already also like practice every time, like breathe through your heart. So we are going to do this, yes, right now, if that's okay. Let's breathe through the heart, and we are going to breathe slower than usual. We are going to inhale, counting to 5, and exhale, counting to 5. We are going to inhale again. And we are going to exhale. 2 more times. Inhale, count to 5. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Okay. So only with this type of breathing is we start calming down. I don't know if you are able to sense or feel like just the shift just with this breathing. It's because we can just breathe in and breathe out, and that will help us. But if we bring our awareness into the heart, then it's more powerful because the heart is connected also with these 2 branches, and it's going to start kind of inviting the heart to, I would say, its heart rhythms are going to start kind of getting in balance again. They're going to be more in a rhythmic, I would say, not rhythm, it's going to be more rhythmic and more balanced, the beats, okay? Because we can see how the heart variability shift when we are not in our balance or in our center, when we are maybe in frustration, when we are in anxiety, or in any other emotion like depression or sadness or those type of emotions, the heart rhythm shifts and it becomes very, it's like, yeah, pressing or pushing the accelerator and pushing the brake, like in a very unbalanced way. And the car, if we do that to our cars, it will get damaged. So when we start breathing through the heart, what we are doing is we are getting that balance within these both branches of the nervous system. It helps a lot. So the other piece that we will use on this technique that we will practice, the technique of the inner ease, or the inner ease technique, is to connect with our state, or to connect with this space of inner ease. And this space is usually a moment, and we can use like a memory just to bring the state or to bring the emotion. But we can use a memory when we felt that we were in flow, that we were kind of one with everything that surrounded us. Yes. So it could be something that, I don't know, for me, for instance, is the beach. When the waters are calm, we are close to the sunset hour, and I can feel the sand under my feet and I can walk. It brings me a sense of fluidity, it brings me a sense of calmness and quiet. And I just feel like I am in a good place. So the invitation here for you is to identify that emotion, to connect to that emotion, or to bring it and feel that emotion of inner ease. So for that, you can identify a place where you feel totally in flow, in peace, in calm, in quietness, like soul center. Can you find a place like that? Yes? Okay, let me know when you have the place, when you identify the place. Okay. Yes? Yes, you have it. Okay, so let's practice, and can you go back into that place and let me know how you feel?
It's peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
Calm.
Okay. Do you feel calm, totally calm, 100% calm?
Yes.
Okay, that's important. Do you feel yourself, you are in total flow? like you are one with everything, you are in total flow with what surrounds you.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, just breathe in and breathe out that feeling, that emotion and sensation. Just connect with that sensation. You feel like you are just in a good place. You are in the perfect place. Excellent. Okay, so that is going to be a place that you can go back when we practice this, when we do this practice of the inner ease technique. Okay, you have already that inner ease, I would say, a space, and you're already connected with the state, because what's more important for me, more than going to that memory, is the state that you are sensing in your body, that you are feeling, and it's going through in your body. That's the most important thing. So, okay, so now we are going to practice the technique, okay? Okay, step one, like we have this state of, yeah, we are in this state, like it could be like when we realize that we are entering into anxiety, that we are reacting, so we can like identify that we are in that state, if that's okay. That's one way. Or we can just practice this at any time. We can just practice this every morning. So it is not, this technique is not to implement it only when we find ourselves that we are like stressed or we are in anxiety. We can do this every time, every morning or every night before going to bed. That's perfect, because what that's going to do is just kind of train your body, train your nervous system, train your breathing, and everything is going to create this new model and new paths in your brain. So the first thing is for us to recognize that we are going through this anxiety, and we can check it within ourselves. If we are in, like, if we are in this episode, we can check, okay, what's going on inside me? Okay, there is like, there is anxiety, like there is anxiety, and I feel frustrated, and I feel upset, and I feel this is unfair. That's just an example. I can just recognize, and also I can recognize in that moment, because first is the acknowledgement. I can recognize that, okay, I feel like I cannot breathe. I feel like my stomach is crunching, is getting more constricted. So it's kind of, I'm just checking and scanning and just observing what's going on in my body. So you just observe. And also you can observe at that moment, okay, I'm not able to think clear at this moment, or, okay, I have this thought or this vision in my mind that is kind of coming over and coming over and coming over. So the first part is kind of the acknowledgement. I am recognizing what is going on. And then after I'm able to recognize without judgment, totally free of judgment, we can recognize that we are not able to think, we are not able to talk to the person, I'm not able to have that conversation, etc. We just acknowledge that, and then we will do the technique of breathing through the heart. So we will start breathing through the heart. After that, after we recognize, then we breathe through the heart. And then once we breathe through the heart, what we are going to bring to ourselves is that state of inner ease. And I will connect with the state of inner ease. And then as I'm connecting with this state of inner ease, what I'm going to do, like after this, it's just a short time, I will put the intention to anchor this state. It's kind of like a boat, and you are just you are anchoring the boat. So even if things happen during the day, you know that you can always come back to that state. just through, once you breathe, you are going to back into that state very easily and very fast. So that's the training. Like for me, many times when I am like kind of running, if I think about the word inner ease, I immediately, if I'm like bring inner ease, is my body already kind of, it's just shifting because I've been practicing so much this type of breathing that it's already anchored within myself. So it's very fast and I feel more relaxed. Okay, so those are the steps. Are those clear? We were going to practice it together, but I just want to check that if those are clear, you will receive those ones in the PDF as well.
With that technique working, you have a trigger, like external trigger, and what can you do, like stay there and try to anchor, or you better go to another room, or you better escape from this external trigger and try to anchor? What will be, because sometimes it's no way to escape. You sometimes you have to stay there.
Yes, yes, I understand. So here what we call, and this is one of the things that we can do. This practice, like in this case, my advice would be that we start practicing this every morning. And then if we are in front of an event and we are not able to escape, but you are able, like, you just need to face it, and you cannot say, okay, I need some time, and that's not an option. Then you can just start breathing through your heart with your eyes open, looking at the other person. It's kind of, you listen, but you kind of pause within yourself and you start breathing through your heart. It's kind of, okay, I want to kill this person that is in front of myself, or I want just to yell. So it's kind of, okay, I'm going just to breathe. And you can just keep talking and breathing, or you can just listen and keep breathing. What that's going to do is going to help you to calm you down so you can think more clear, with more clarity. It will give you, okay, you will be able to take a better decision if you do this. So this is not a technique that you need to do only when you are by yourself, but I would recommend you to start practicing this with your eyes open, because most of our challenges appears in front of us when we have the eyes open, when we are awake. And when we go into meditation or we do these practices, usually what we do is we close our eyes. So we are great when we close our eyes, but the thing is how we bring those states when we close our eyes in our awakened state. And then the practice is to start practicing with our eyes open. And these techniques, you don't need to do it for a long time. If you just do 2 or 3 breathings, that will help you. But it's going to take time. Like scientifically, it has been proven that to do a shift of the baseline, and when I talk about the baseline, is kind of the heart rhythm, is related to the heart rhythm or the heart variability. It takes 3 to 4 months to totally shift. And if you change this heart rhythm variability, then you are also shifting your reactions, you are shifting your capacity of resilience. So with that also, you are kind of releasing a lot of the anxiety, because you are creating a new model of response to the events. So that's a way that as more you practice, is kind of you release the previous learned responses. I don't know, does it help, Diana, or do you have a specific example you want to share?
Well, I have experience sometime or experience in a special occasion that I was shifted out of my center. I feel it myself a lot of shifted out of my center, or feeling that I was driven by the external environment that I was in.
Yes.
And I was not able to keep this time that I normally my daily routine, as I have like I'm meditating and having this time for myself. But then I was feeling totally out of the center, and I was seeing myself also reacting or being more anxious or being not so happy. So it was really difficult to keep that. That was one example. And another question I mean, it's also about anxiety, but it's a little different situation. It's like, what if you recognize the signals in your body, and then you know, okay, now I'm feeling anxious. Like maybe I'm eating a little more. Maybe I'm not able to control eating sugar, or like this kind of thing. But you don't know what can that trigger. You don't know what can be the cause of that. It's just maybe you see I has been, because you're observing yourself and say I has been some days behaving like that, or have been some months behaving like that, but I cannot see a clear trigger of that because maybe you're not conscious of that. So then it's more difficult to work on this kind of thing, because then you don't really know what you need to overcome, or what is that is creating in you the response from your body or from your soul. So that is the difference, because one is triggering you, and then you know what does the trigger come from, and the other one you just get the reaction, but you don't really know what is that is producing this anxiety, or what is that you are anxious for.
Yes. Well, the question would be, in that moment that you are feeling anxious or you are getting that, in the second case, it would be to make a pause and ask yourself, because many times we find ourselves that, yes, we are eating and we haven't checked out how we are feeling within ourselves. And we say, like, for instance, today morning I was eating some chips, and then I can see when I'm eating for pleasure or I am eating when I am anxious. It's very different, the rhythm of when I'm eating. So I realized, and I was just, okay, I was breathing and I was saying, okay, what's going on? And usually when I have many things to do, for instance, or there is something that is I must do, I need to do, and it's going to take me some time, that is I don't control it. Let's say that I need to wait, but I need it like for very, very soon. So I see that pattern of behavior, because that's how I learned, right? I learned that I need to get things for yesterday. And if I don't get, then I don't know how to react, and I get into this anxious state. So I realized how I was eating, and I was looking, okay, what's going on within myself? And I realized that situation, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to breathe in and I'm just going to breathe out. And when I'm able to bring my awareness and kind of getting to acknowledge the emotions and also understand what's going on, and also like, okay, it doesn't make sense, it kind of dissolves it, the charge that it had kind of dissolve. But that's it's not like I do it once and it's done. I need to do it very constantly, because it's the learned behavior of my body to react whenever there is a similar situation. It reacts in that same way. It reacts on the same way. So yes, we can do, sometimes this could be related to something in the past, or sometimes it's just maybe we already work in the past, but it's kind of the effect of many times recreating that response. So sometimes I think what we can do is delete. It's kind of, as we practice more, we also delete the effect that it has been created in our emotional, neurological, and mental parts of ourselves, because that's what we want. We want totally to kind of create new codes of response. So at this moment, I would say the best way is to practice. Like there is not I think we don't have a script to not bring it into action, the new behavior or the new response. It could be less, maybe that's what we can reduce, but still I believe we need to bring into our consciousness. Of course, as you took also and you did the energy clearing, you can do the clearing for that emotion because it's an accumulated. So you can ask for the clearing for that emotion that has been accumulated in your different bodies. And you can work with that, and that could help also to release the energy. So those are kind of the options that we have. Not always we have, most of the times we have a trigger, but sometimes we are just dealing with the behavior, the learned behavior of our body, because our body has memory about reaction. So it's just what is learned, but so we just need to practice. That's what I would say. And what in the cases of Harmat and applying this, like they say, if you practice this, and there is another technique that I will share with you and everybody, that is called that's the heart. I think that's the heart technique. It's like you start kind of irradiating like a happy state in your body, and that helps you to create a new baseline. So this technique will be an addition with the one that we just learned about the inner ease. And these two techniques, if you practice on a daily basis, and you can do the one that we learned today, you can start doing with your eyes closed at the beginning, and then you can do it with your eyes open. So whenever you are with someone, or before you are having a meeting, or you're moving from working into checking how your kids are, or from your kids and receiving and having this conversation with your husband, for instance, then you can apply this technique. It will just help you to reset your state. And also it kind of puts you in a way, it's kind of recharging your inner battery, because many times when we don't have energy, because anxiety sometimes drains us, if it's there for a long time, then this will help us also recharging ourselves. So this is a different way to learn a new behavior and kind of reprogram our system. That's it. This is a different way, and it works. Did I answer your question, Diana?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yes. Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, that was the most, the biggest question, I say.
Okay. And does it help you? Do you find it useful, today's conversation or today's topic?
Yes, I think it was really interesting. And of course, I have some other questions, but they were so small and they were a long time ago. I was so interested to listen what you wanted to say, and also the way you develop the session, that I feel it like if I ask now, then she will diverse it in another way. So I want to continue listening. So I wait until the end
okay.
for this, and that was like the one that I felt that it was like globalizing. I could get like a big response, a big reply from you from my question. So this is the two biggest questions I have. So
okay.
You covered that.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. So this is what we have for today, and you will be receiving, I think, maybe on Wednesday. Well, we are going to send you the other version, but yeah, you will be receiving the recording, the replay, and also the PDF. And in this case, for this week's session, there will be the guided technique for this other technique that I just comment to you. I think that's going to be helpful to start fostering a new baseline in your response in our neurological body.
Oh, we will do the exercise now, or
yes, we will do it as a once. Yes. Okay, so let's breathe in. Let's first, well, as we are, I don't know, how do you feel? What you can do is, maybe if you want to do to the last moment or the last episode that you have, the event of anxiety that you went through, maybe you can just bring it in if you feel to, then if you bring that moment, what I'm going to invite you, and this is more for training yourself on how you would do it once you have these events, then if you bring the last time or the last event, then I'm going to invite you to start acknowledging the emotions. And maybe in this moment, it's kind of you are pausing into that moment and you are kind of seeing everything in slow motion. So even you can be able to see the thoughts or the pictures that you were visualizing or what you were listening. And just free of judgments, just observe them and acknowledge them. Mm-hmm. And observe if this is something from the future. If this is something from the future, I'm going to mix this technique with something else. If this is something from the future, I'm going to invite you to see yourself successfully, like to see this event totally completed, successfully completed. And you might go one day after its completion, even. And observe every detail one day after its completion, successful completion. Just visualize every detail. Okay. And from this space, now you're going to start breathing in and breathing out. You're returning to the present moment. So right here, right now, in your physical space. And you will start breathing in through your heart, counting to 5. Exhaling, counting to 5 through your heart. Inhale. Exhale. And from this space, you will bring the inner ease state. And just feel this state in your whole body of inner ease. And you will put the intention to anchor it. Just breathe in and breathe out. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. How do you feel? It took us like a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Yes. How do you feel?
I think I choose a so difficult situation because it has not couldn't visualize in the future. So I jump into the inner ease directly. Perfect. And that's good calm because I was feeling my heart beating so fast and feeling anxiety. So then I jumped directly because I couldn't see the end. I didn't know the end. I didn't know the future. I didn't know how to solve this in the.
Okay.
It was a complex situation issues.
Okay. So this
so
is
that I jumped directly to the inner instead.
And it worked out?
Yes, it worked out. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So this is good that you are mentioning this, because if that happens, it's because we are trying to resolve it in our mind. And we don't need to resolve. We just need to see that everything is resolved. You don't know how, but everything is successful at the end. Like everything is, but as I mentioned, like that part, that's a practice, but that's, you don't need to do that, like going and jump into the end and the completion. That helps a lot because it's put at rest your mind. But just doing the technique, it will put at rest your mind as well. So, but my advice, if you want to start practicing like 4 other things, seen into a success completion, remember that you don't need to know how to resolve. You just see that it's resolved for everybody. It's for yourself. It's good for yourself and everybody. It's can you just see, you look back, like in that, you go to the future and look back and say, everybody, it's okay. I am okay. This is resolved. This topic is closed. Everybody's doing what they need to do. And it's kind of, you feel it's closed. And the most important is that you feel good with the output, even though you don't know the step-by-step thing on what happened, right? So it's not trying to resolve in our mind. It's more like jumping into the conclusion. It's kind of, if I'm creating a retreat in Bali, for instance, and I'm anxious about how I'm going to feel all the spots and everything, I will see, yes, at the end, maybe drinking my champagne, because I would ask myself how I will celebrate this completion. So I will see myself drinking the champagne, saying, "Oh, great! Like we have the people that needed to be present in this moment, and it was perfect." And you just feel fulfilled in that moment, seeing that I finished, I was able to create everything, and that I'm just celebrating. That's an example. So that's also a way if you want to practice. But if you see, okay, this is not, I prefer just to jump directly to the inner ease, that's perfect. Okay.
That's good then that I choose this difficult situation so you could answer this question also.
Yes, because sometimes that's the hard part, is like we are trying to resolve. And the thing is that many times we don't know the how. We just need to follow kind of one step at a time, right? But sometimes we want to figure it out everything, and that's what creates the anxiety. Anxiety is when, oh, I don't know how, like I don't have money, how I'm going to make money, I don't know. Yes, because you are thinking in the future. You're thinking you are not going to be able, and you want to resolve it in your mind. But then if you go now, it's just, okay, I'm okay now. I have to eat today. I have what is needed. I feel okay now. So it's kind of, okay, I'm going to see myself that I resolve this, that I'm okay in the near future. But you don't need to know the how, because that just can kind of intensify the anxiety, because there are many things that we plan the how, but it results being different, how it develops or unfolds. Yeah. So that was good.
That's great.
Okay, perfect. So that's what we have, Diana. Any other questions?
No.
Perfect.
No,
okay.
Fine.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you for today, yes.
So lots of love. And we see you.
Thank you.
Just let us know.
Yes,
okay?
we see. Yeah, okay. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.